Captain Jake Morrison stared at the strange metal structure floating in space. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, had been traveling through the Kepler sector for 3 weeks. This was supposed to be empty space. No planets, no stations, nothing at all. But there it was, a dark gray building the size of a small moon. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" Jake asked his navigator. Lisa Grant looked at her screens and frowned. "Captain, that thing isn't on any of our maps. It's not supposed to be here." Matt Rodriguez, the chief engineer, walked onto the bridge. He had been fixing problems in the engine room all morning. "What's got everyone so quiet?" he asked. "Look outside," Jake said. Matt pressed his face against the window. "Holy cow, that's huge." "What is it?" Dr. Amy Walsh joined them on the bridge. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms. "It looks artificial. Someone built that thing." Jake made his decision. "We're going to take a closer look. Lisa, take us in slowly. Matt, make sure our weapons are ready, just in case." The structure was even bigger than it looked from far away. It had no lights, no signs of life. Long metal arms stuck out from the main body like the legs of a dead spider. There were windows, but they were all dark. "I'm not picking up any radio signals," Lisa reported. "Nothing at all. It's completely silent." Amy studied her instruments. "The metal is unlike anything I've seen before. Very advanced. Whoever built this was smart. Very smart." Jake felt nervous. In 20 years of space travel, he had never found anything like this. "Can we dock with it?" "There's a docking bay on the lower section," Lisa said. "It looks like it's made for ships about our size. Take us in." The docking bay was empty and dark. Their ship's lights cast long shadows on the metal walls. Jake, Amy, Lisa, and Matt put on their spacesuits and stepped onto the alien station. The air was breathable, but thin. The gravity was lighter than Earth's. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked, triggered by their movement. "Someone definitely lived here," Amy said. "Look at these doorways. They're taller than human doors, but not by much." They found what looked like a control room. Dozens of screens covered the walls. When Amy touched one, it lit up. Strange symbols filled the screen, but then they changed. The symbols became English words. "How is it doing that?" Matt asked. "It's reading our minds somehow," Amy said. "Or maybe our translation devices. Very advanced technology." The screens showed files, thousands of them. Jake opened one at random. His blood went cold. "Amy, come look at this." The file contained pictures of humans. Not just any humans, but people from the outer colonies. Men, women, children. The pictures looked like medical files. Height, weight, blood type, brain scans. Amy opened another file. It was worse. The pictures showed humans strapped to tables, needles in their arms, cuts on their skin, notes in the alien language now translated to English. "Subject shows interesting pain response. Continue testing." "Oh my God," Lisa whispered. She was looking at a different screen. "Jake, there are thousands of these files. Look at the dates. They've been doing this for 50 years. Matt found a list of colony ships. Ships that had gone missing over the decades. Ships that everyone thought had been destroyed by pirates or equipment failure. "They've been taking our people," he said. "All this time, they've been taking our people." Jake felt sick. He opened more files. The aliens called themselves the Corvani. They had been studying humans like lab rats. The files showed detailed plans of human colonies, guard schedules, patrol routes. They had been watching humanity for generations. Amy found the worst file of all. It was labeled Final Solution Protocol. The file contained plans for the complete destruction of the human race. The Corvani saw humans as dangerous. They multiplied too fast, spread too far, fought too well. The experiments were to find weaknesses that could be used to kill all humans at once. "They were going to wipe us out," Amy said. Her voice was shaking. "All of this, all these experiments, it was to find the best way to commit genocide, The files showed that over 200,000 humans had been taken over the years, men, women, children from dozens of colonies. They had been brought to stations like this one, studied, tortured, and then killed when the experiments were done. Jake found a recent file. It was dated only 3 months ago. A family from the New Boston colony, parents and 2 small children. The file showed what had been done to them. Jake had to look away. "Captain," Lisa said, "there are more stations. Look at this map." The screen showed dozens of red dots scattered across human space. Each dot was a Corvani research station. They had been operating right under humanity's nose for decades. "They're gone," Matt said. He was looking at the life support readings. "This place has been empty for weeks. They ran away." Amy was copying everything onto portable drives, every file, every picture, every piece of evidence. "We need to get this back to Earth. People need to know what happened to all those missing ships." Jake was quiet. He was thinking about his own family back on Earth, his wife Sarah, his 2 sons. He was thinking about all the families who had lost people over the years. All the people who had grieved for loved ones, never knowing the truth. "They knew we would find out eventually," Jake said. "That's why they ran. They finished their research and disappeared." "Where did they go?" Lisa asked. Amy found another file. "According to this, they have a homeworld in the Vega system, but they've been evacuating. They're moving deeper into the galaxy." "They think they can hide," Matt said. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people, kind people. But he could see the anger growing in their eyes, the same anger that was growing in his own heart. "Copy everything," he ordered. "Every single file, every picture, every piece of data. Then we're going back to Earth." "What do we tell them?" Lisa asked. Jake looked at the screens showing pictures of tortured human children. "We tell them the truth. We tell them what the Corvani did to our people." The crew worked in silence for the next 6 hours. They copied terabytes of data, evidence of 50 years of systematic torture and murder, evidence of planned genocide, evidence that would change everything. When they were done, Jake took one last look around the empty station. "Goodbye," he said quietly. Then he gave the order to destroy it. Their ship's weapons turned the research station into floating debris. As the horizon's edge headed back to Earth, Jake knew that everything was about to change. Humanity was about to learn a terrible truth. And the Corvani, wherever they were hiding, were about to discover what happened when you made humanity truly angry. Admiral Kevin Brooks sat in his office on Earth, staring at the data files that Captain Morrison had brought back. He had been reading for 6 hours straight. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't notice. Every page made him more angry than the last. The door opened and Intelligence Officer Helen Carter walked in. She looked tired and pale. "Admiral, I've finished going through the colony records. It's worse than we thought." Kevin looked up from his screen. "How much worse?" Helen sat down across from his desk. She held a thick folder in her hands. "We cross-referenced the Corvani files with our missing ship reports going back 70 years. Every single accident in the outer colonies matches up with their records. The transport ship that disappeared near Alpha Centauri in 2341, they took it. The research vessel that went missing in the Tau Ceti system, they took that too." "How many people?" "Best estimate is 300,000 humans taken over 7 decades. Men, women, children, entire families." Helen's voice was getting quieter. "The Corvani were very organized. They kept detailed records of everything they did to our people." Kevin felt his hands clench into fists. "Show me the worst of it." Helen opened her folder. "This is a report from Research Station 7. They were testing how long human children could survive in different atmospheric conditions. They used kids as young as 5 years old." Kevin read the file. He had to stop halfway through. "Dear God, there's more. Station 12 was testing human pain tolerance. They wanted to know exactly how much torture a human could endure before dying. They used pregnant women for some of the tests." Kevin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people were going about their normal lives. They had no idea what had been happening to their missing relatives and friends. They documented everything, every single experiment, every test, Every death. They treated our people like lab animals. No, worse than animals. At least animals get put out of their misery quickly. Kevin turned back to Helen. What about their future plans? Helen pulled out another file. This is what they called the Final Solution Protocol. Phase 1 was the research phase, which lasted 70 years. They were studying human biology, psychology, and social structures. Phase 2 was supposed to begin next year. What's Phase 2? Extermination. They planned to release biological weapons on Earth and all the colony worlds simultaneously. They estimated it would kill 95% of humanity within 6 months. Kevin sat back down. The room felt cold. They were going to kill our entire species. According to their timeline, yes. They viewed humans as an infestation that needed to be removed before we spread too far across the galaxy. Kevin picked up his phone. Get me President Cole immediately. Emergency priority. Within an hour, Kevin was standing in the White House Situation Room. President Nathan Cole sat at the head of a long table. Around the table were the heads of every major government department and military branch. General Patricia Hayes from the Army, Admiral Robert Stone from the Navy, Director Carl Murphy from the Space Defense Force. Kevin presented the evidence. He showed them pictures of the research stations. He read them excerpts from the Corvani files. He explained the scope of the experiments and the planned genocide. The room was completely silent when he finished. President Cole was the first to speak. How do we know this is real? How do we know it's not some kind of elaborate fake? Sir, Captain Morrison's team brought back physical evidence. We've verified the data using 3 different methods. The translation software was authentic Corvani technology. The DNA samples they collected match missing colonists from our databases. Kevin paused. There's no doubt. This is real. General Hayes leaned forward. Where are they now? Gone. They evacuated all their research stations weeks before Morrison found them. Our intelligence suggests they're heading for deep space beyond the rim of known galaxy. They're running, Admiral Stone said. They know we'll come for them, Director Murphy added. The question is, what do we do about it? President Cole stood up. We make them pay. Every single one of them. Sir, Kevin said carefully, there are ethical considerations. Military law requires us to accept surrender, to treat prisoners humanely, to distinguish between combatants and civilians. President Cole looked at him with cold eyes. Admiral, did the Corvani distinguish between combatants and civilians when they tortured our children? Kevin said nothing. Did they accept surrender from the families they kidnapped? Did they treat their prisoners humanely? No, sir. Then why should we extend courtesies to them that they never extended to us? President Cole looked around the table. Gentlemen and ladies, we're not talking about a normal war here. This isn't about territory or resources or political differences. This is about a species that spent 70 years systematically torturing and murdering our people with the goal of wiping us from existence. General Hayes nodded. What are you proposing, Mr. President? I'm proposing that we remove the Corvani from the universe completely, not just their military, not just their government, all of them. Every ship, every station, every world. We erase them so thoroughly that future generations won't even know they existed. Admiral Stone frowned. Sir, that's genocide. No, Admiral. Genocide is what they were planning to do to us. What we're talking about is extermination of a species that has forfeited any right to exist. Director Murphy spoke up. We have the technology, the star-killer weapons, the gravity bombs, the quantum disruptors. We developed them for planetary defense, but they could be used offensively. Those weapons were banned by the Galactic Peace Accords, Kevin reminded them. The accords don't apply to non-signatories, President Cole said, and they certainly don't apply to species that commit genocide against signatory races. General Hayes was looking at intelligence reports. Our deep space scouts have located 17 Corvani worlds. Their home world is in the Vega system, just like the files said. Population approximately 2 billion. 2 billion, President Cole repeated. 2 billion individuals of a species that tortured 300,000 of our people to death and planned to kill 12 billion more. The room was quiet again. President Cole made his decision. I'm authorizing Operation Absolute Zero. We mobilize every military asset we have. We hunt down every Corvani ship, station, and world. We destroy them all. No prisoners, no surrender, no mercy. Sir, Kevin said, this will change us. This will change what humanity is. Admiral, humanity changed the moment Captain Morrison found those research stations. We learned that there are species in this universe that will torture our children for science and plan to murder our entire race. We can either adapt to that reality, or we can be victims of it. President Cole looked around the table one more time. Are there any objections to Operation Absolute Zero? No one spoke. Then it's decided. General Hayes, begin mobilization immediately. I want every ship, every weapon, every soldier ready for deployment within 90 days. Admiral Stone, coordinate with our allies. Tell them what we found and what we're planning to do about it. Director Murphy, I want those banned weapon systems online and ready for field testing. As the meeting broke up, Kevin stayed behind. Mr. President, what do we tell the public? Nathan Cole looked tired, older than he had that morning. We tell them the truth, Admiral. We tell them what the Corvani did to our people. We tell them that we're going to make sure it never happens again. And if other species object to our methods, then they can join the Corvani in extinction. President, Cole walked toward the door, then stopped. Admiral, do you have children? 2 daughters, sir. Then you understand. When someone threatens your children, you don't negotiate. You don't compromise, you eliminate the threat. Permanently. That night, President Cole addressed the nation. He showed them the pictures from the Corvani research stations. He read them, the names of the 300,000 missing humans. He explained the planned genocide. The reaction was immediate and unanimous. Every human world demanded justice. But this wasn't justice they wanted. It was something darker, more final. It was the complete removal of the Corvani from existence. Humanity had been angry before. They had fought wars, conquered enemies, built empires. But they had never been this angry. They had never been angry enough to erase an entire species from the universe. The Corvani had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated what humans would do to protect their children. Now they were about to learn. Fleet Commander Ryan Parker stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching thousands of human ships gather in Earth orbit. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. Every nation on Earth had contributed ships. Every colony world had sent their defense fleets. Even civilian cargo ships had been converted into weapons platforms. Commander, his aide Lieutenant Tony Martinez called out. Final count is in. We have 8,412 ships ready for deployment. Ryan nodded. Behind him, Dr. Claire Thompson was reviewing technical specifications for the new weapons systems. She had been working 18-hour days for the past 3 months, preparing humanity's most destructive technologies for war. Dr. Thompson, Ryan said, are the special weapons ready? Claire looked up from her tablet. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, but her voice was steady. All systems are operational, Commander. The Star Killers have been tested and deployed to 12 ships. The gravity bombs are loaded and ready. The quantum disruptors are online. And the planet crackers? Installed on 6 ships. Each one can split a world in half within minutes. Ryan felt a chill. These weapons had been developed years ago for planetary defense against asteroids and rogue planets. No one had ever imagined using them against inhabited worlds. How many Corvani worlds are we targeting? Intelligence has confirmed 23 inhabited systems, Tony reported. Total population estimated at 4.2 billion. Dr. Thompson spoke quietly. Commander, I need to ask, are we really going to use these weapons against civilian populations? Ryan turned to face her. Doctor, did you read the files from the research stations? Yes, but did you see the pictures of what they did to human children? Claire nodded reluctantly. Did you read their plans for exterminating our entire species? Yes, Commander. Then you know why we're here. Ryan looked back at the fleet assembling. Outside. The Corvani made their choice 70 years ago when they started their experiments. We're just finishing what they started. Captain Steve Manning commanded the advanced scout force. His job was to locate Corvani positions and assess their defenses. For the past week, his ships had been jumping into Corvani space, taking measurements, and jumping out before they could be detected. "Captain," his navigator Lisa Park called out, "we're approaching the first target system." Steve looked at his tactical display. The Corvani homeworld orbited a yellow star very similar to Earth's. Sun, long-range sensors showed cities, farms, industrial centers, orbital stations, and defensive platforms. It looked like a normal, peaceful civilization. "Any sign of military buildup?" Steve asked. "Negative, Captain. Their defense fleet appears to be in normal peacetime deployment. Maybe 200 ships total. They don't know we're coming," his weapons officer Danny Garcia observed. "They think they're safe out here." Steve activated his communication system. "All ships, this is Vanguard 1. Begin deep scan of the system. I want to know the location of every ship, every station, every significant installation." For the next 4 hours, Steve's ships mapped the entire Corvani home system. Population centers, military bases, government buildings, schools, hospitals. Everything was cataloged and transmitted back to the main fleet. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "the population scans are showing approximately 500 million Corvani on the homeworld alone." Steve knew what she was thinking. 500 million people. Families, children, ordinary citizens who probably had no idea what their government had been doing to humans. In any normal war, these would be non-combatants, protected by the laws of war. But this wasn't a normal war. "Lisa, how many human children did they torture to death in their experiments?" She checked her files. According to the research station, data approximately 45,000 children under the age of 16. "Then we're going to kill their children too." Steve's voice was cold. "Except we're going to be faster about it." Meanwhile, Commander Laura Davis was leading search and destroy missions against fleeing Corvani ships. Her fast attack squadron had been hunting refugee vessels for weeks. The Corvani were trying to evacuate their population to unknown systems beyond the galactic rim. "Commander," her communications officer Billy Roberts reported, "we've intercepted another convoy. 12 ships, mostly civilian transports." Laura studied the tactical display. The Corvani ships were running at maximum speed, but human vessels were faster. "Any military escort?" 2 light cruisers, outdated designs. They won't be a problem." "Target. The escorts first, then the transports. No survivors." The battle was over in minutes. Corvani weapons technology was decades behind human systems. Their ships exploded one by one, bright flashes against the darkness of space. When it was finished, 12,000 Corvani were dead. "Commander," Billy said hesitantly, "some of the transports were clearly civilian. We detected families, children." "No," Laura replied. "Did the Corvani spare our families and children?" Billy was quiet. The Corvani decided that genocide was an acceptable solution to their problems. Laura continued. "Now they get to experience it firsthand." Back on Earth, the public was following the war through news broadcasts and military reports. The initial reaction had been shock and horror at the Corvani experiments. Now it was something else entirely. Something colder and more determined. News anchor Jennifer Lewis was interviewing Dr. Peter Wong, a specialist in alien psychology. "Dr. Wong," she said, "some people are calling our response excessive. Is there a risk that we're becoming as bad as the Corvani?" Dr. Wong shook his head. "Jennifer, the Corvani spent 70 years systematically torturing our people for scientific research. They plan to exterminate our entire species. What we're doing isn't revenge, it's prevention." "Prevention of what?" "Prevention of it ever happening again. You don't negotiate with a species that views genocide as an acceptable tool. You remove them from the equation permanently." "But what about innocent Corvani civilians?" "There are no innocent Corvani," Dr. Wong said flatly. "They all knew what their government was doing. They all supported it either actively or through silence. Every Corvani that we allow to live is a potential threat to every human child in the galaxy." Jennifer looked uncomfortable. "That seems like a very harsh viewpoint." "Jennifer, would You be willing to bet your daughter's life that the Corvani won't try this again in 50 years? Would you be willing to risk your grandchildren on Corvani promises of peace? Jennifer was quiet. I didn't think so. Neither are the rest of us. In space, the hunt continued. Human ships spread out across Corvani territory like a vast net, catching every fleeing vessel. The Corvani military put up token resistance, but their technology was no match for human weapons. Most of their ships were destroyed before they could fire a shot. Commander Ryan Parker received regular reports from his ship captains. System after system was being cleared of Corvani presence. Not just military targets, but everything. Cities, farms, research stations, communication relays. If the Corvani had built it, humanity destroyed it. Commander, Tony Martinez reported, Captain Manning's scouts have located the main Corvani evacuation fleet. Approximately 800 ships heading for the Galactic Rim. Estimated population 50 million refugees. Our response? Admiral Stone has dispatched the Third Fleet to intercept. They should reach the Corvani fleet in 18 hours. Ryan nodded. 50 million Corvani refugees. The survivors of an entire civilization, fleeing for their lives. In any other conflict, they would be allowed to leave, given safe passage to neutral space, but not this time. Send a message to Admiral Stone. No survivors. Not one ship gets away. Sir, Tony said quietly. Those are mostly civilian refugees. Families with children. Ryan looked at him with cold eyes. Tony, do you have children? Yes, sir. 2 boys. Would you want them to live in a galaxy where the Corvani still existed? Where there was always a chance that someday, somehow, the Corvani might come back and finish what they started? Tony thought about his sons back on Earth, 8 and 10 years old, playing in the backyard, completely innocent and trusting. No, sir. I would not. Then you understand why those refugee ships have to be destroyed. The Third Fleet intercepted the Corvani evacuation convoy 16 hours later. The refugee ships tried to surrender, broadcasting desperate pleas for mercy in a dozen languages. The human ships ignored the transmissions and opened fire. 50 million Corvani died in less than an hour. Dr. Claire Thompson was monitoring the progress of Operation Absolute Zero from the command ship. The systematic destruction of an entire species was proceeding ahead of schedule. Corvani space was being methodically cleared, one system at a time. Commander Parker, she said, we've identified the last major Corvani population center. A colony, world called Corvani 7, about 200 million inhabitants. Military significance? Minimal. It's mostly farms and small cities. Looks like they were trying to be self-sufficient in case of war. Ryan looked at the tactical display showing the peaceful colony world. Farms, towns, families trying to live. Normal lives. They probably had no idea that human ships were coming to kill them all. Deploy the planet cracker, he ordered. Sir, Claire said, the planet cracker will destroy the entire world. Every person, every animal, every plant. The planet itself will be split apart. I know what it does, Doctor. General Diana Foster stood in the command center of the massive human ship, Absolute Justice, watching the final phase of Operation Absolute Zero unfold. Around her, dozens of officers coordinated the systematic destruction of everything the Corvani had ever built. This wasn't conquest anymore. It was erasure. General, her aide Captain Roy Mitchell reported, we've completed the destruction of all major Corvani worlds. 23 planets, 47 moons, and 63 space stations have been eliminated. Diana nodded. What about their historical sites and data archives? Dr. Wong's teams are finishing up now. Every Corvani library, museum, and cultural center has been located and destroyed. We're also eliminating their automated data networks. Dr. Peter Wong was leading the most thorough destruction of knowledge in galactic history. His job was to make sure that nothing remained of Corvani culture, science, or history. Future generations would find no trace that this species had ever existed. Dr. Wong, Diana called out, what's the status on their deep space data caches? Peter looked up from his console. We've found and destroyed 347 hidden data storage facilities. These were backup systems scattered throughout their territory. designed to preserve their knowledge in case of catastrophe. Any more out there? Possibly. The Corvani were thorough about backing up their information, but we're being more thorough about destroying it. Diana walked over to the tactical display. It showed what had once been Corvani space, where there had been stars, planets, and civilizations. Now there was mostly empty void. The humans hadn't just killed the Corvani, they had removed every trace of their existence. Commander Laura Davis was completing the final sweep for survivors. Her ships had been hunting individual Corvani vessels for months. Every escape pod, every hidden ship, every refugee who thought they might be able to hide in deep space. Commander, her scanner operator Beth Turner reported, "We've detected another small craft, single occupant, heading for the Galactic Rim." Laura looked at the display. One tiny ship, running at maximum speed away from what had been Corvani space. Probably a survivor hoping to escape to another galaxy entirely. Any weapons? No, ma'am. It's a civilian transport. Life support is failing. Whoever's inside probably only has a few days left anyway. Laura considered letting the ship go. One Corvani survivor out of billions, but her orders were clear. No survivors. Not one. Destroy it, she ordered. The human ship's weapons fired once. The Corvani vessel disappeared in a brief flash of light. Another survivor eliminated. Another loose end tied up. "Ma'am," Beth said, quietly. "That might have been the last one." "Let's hope so," Laura replied. "Signal the fleet. Continue searching. We keep hunting until we're absolutely certain they're all dead." Back on the Absolute Justice, Diana was reviewing the progress reports. The numbers were staggering. 4.2 billion Corvani killed. 23 inhabited worlds destroyed. Hundreds of space stations eliminated. Thousands of ships destroyed. An entire civilization wiped from existence. "General," Captain Mitchell said, "we're receiving reports from the outer search teams. They've found evidence of additional Corvani research facilities. More torture stations." "No, ma'am. These appear to be archaeological sites. The Corvani were studying dead civilizations, ancient ruins on uninhabited worlds." Diana frowned. "Why would they be interested in dead civilizations?" Dr. Wong looked up from his work. "They were probably looking for information about species that had gone extinct, trying to understand how to make extinction happen more efficiently." "Destroy the sites," Diana ordered. "If the Corvani built it, studied it, or touched it, I want it gone." The teams worked for weeks to eliminate every trace of Corvani presence in the galaxy. Not just their cities and ships, but every research outpost, every archaeological dig, every piece of equipment they had ever deployed. The goal was complete erasure. Dr. Sally Brooks was part of the historical elimination teams. Her job was to locate and destroy any records that mentioned the Corvani and other species' archives. If the Corvani had ever made contact with another civilization, those records had to be eliminated too. Dr. Brooks, her assistant Mike Chen, called out, "We've found Corvani references in the Altarian Central Archives. Trade records, diplomatic, notes, scientific exchanges." "Delete everything," Sally ordered. "I don't care if it damages the Altarian historical record. Any mention of the Corvani gets removed." "Ma'am, some of these records go back thousands of years. The Corvani apparently had peaceful relations with dozens of species. I don't care if they were saints for 10,000 years. They tortured our children for science. They planned to commit genocide against our entire species. As far as the galaxy is concerned, they never existed." Sally was working 18 hours a day, systematically removing the Corvani from galactic history. Ship registrations, star charts, diplomatic records, trade agreements, scientific papers. If it mentioned the Corvani, it was deleted or destroyed. The most difficult part was dealing with other species who asked questions. The Altarians wanted to know why humans were destroying Corvani historical records. The Centaurians asked about their missing trade partners. The Vegans wondered what had happened to their scientific exchange programs. The human response was always the same. The Corvani no longer exist. That is all you need to know. Some species protested. They demanded explanations. They threatened. to report humans to the Galactic Council for violating interstellar law. President Cole's response was delivered by Admiral Brooks to a special session of the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Haven. "Fellow council members," Kevin said, addressing the assembled representatives of 47 species, "humanity recently discovered that the Corvani had been systematically torturing and murdering our civilians for 70 years. They had kidnapped over 300,000 humans for use in scientific experiments. They had plans to exterminate our entire species." The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. "We have responded by eliminating the Corvani threat," Kevin continued, "completely and permanently. The Corvani no longer exist anywhere in the galaxy." The Altarian representative stood up. "Admiral Brooks, you're talking about genocide, the systematic extermination of an entire species. This is the worst crime possible under galactic law." Kevin looked at him calmly. "Counselor Zephyr, genocide is what the Corvani were planning to do to humanity. We simply acted first. But there must have been innocent civilians among them, children who had nothing to do with their government's policies. Did the Corvani spare our innocent civilians? Did they spare our children?" The chamber was quiet. "The human position is simple," Kevin said. "Any species that commits genocide, plans genocide, or supports genocide forfeits its right to exist. We will not coexist with species that view the extermination of other races as an acceptable political tool." The Centaurian representative spoke next. "Admiral, what you're describing is a fundamental change in galactic civilization. For thousands of years, wars have been fought with rules. Civilians were protected, prisoners were treated humanely, cultural sites were preserved, and for thousands of years the Corvani were secretly torturing our people to death while pretending to be peaceful neighbors," Kevin replied. "The old rules didn't protect our children, so we've written new rules." "What new rules?" Kevin looked around the chamber at the representatives of dozens of species. "Any species that harms human civilians will be completely eliminated. Any species that plans to harm human civilians will be completely eliminated. Any species that supports or enables the harming of human civilians will be completely eliminated." "You're threatening the entire galaxy," the Vegan representative said. "No, Counselor. We're promising the galaxy. As long as you don't torture our children, you have nothing to fear from humanity. The moment you cross that line, you cease to exist." Kevin activated a holographic display showing images from the Corvani research stations, pictures of tortured human children, medical files documenting systematic abuse, plans for genocide. "This is what the Corvani did to our people," he said. "This is why they don't exist anymore. Learn from their mistake." The council voted to condemn humanity's actions, but the vote was meaningless. Several species had already quietly reached out to human diplomatic missions to assure them that they had no hostile intentions toward humanity. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Humans could be reasoned with, traded with, even befriended. But they could not be victimized without consequences that defied comprehension. Back in what had been Corvani space, the cleanup was nearly complete. General Foster received the final reports from her teams. "All Corvani installations have been destroyed," Captain Mitchell reported. "All survivor searches have been completed with negative results. All historical records have been eliminated from known databases. What about their star charts and navigation data? Deleted from every database we could find. As far as official records are concerned, the stars in former Corvani space were always uninhabited." Diana looked at the tactical display one more time. Empty space where a civilization had once thrived. Nothing remained except cosmic debris and the occasional radiation signature from destroyed worlds. "General," Dr. Wong said, "there's one more thing. The Corvani homeworld star." "What about it?" Admiral Jake Morrison stood aboard the command ship Final Word in what had once been the heart of the Corvani Empire. 4 years had passed since he first discovered the research station that changed everything. Now he was here to witness the completion of the most thorough military campaign in galactic history. "Admiral," his navigator Tony Martinez reported, "final scan of the sector is complete. No artificial structures detected. No energy signatures. No signs of life." Jake looked out at the empty space around his ship. Where the Corvani homeworld had once orbited, there was now only a black hole. The star itself had been collapsed, taking with it any evidence that a planet had ever existed there. Lieutenant Susan Hill, the fleet's chief cartographer, approached with her final report. Admiral, we've completed the revision of all official star charts. The 23 systems that formerly contained Corvani worlds are now listed as uninhabited space. What designation are you giving them? Deep space sectors DS1 through DS23. As far as official records are concerned, these areas have always been empty. Jake nodded. And the navigation databases? Updated across all human ships and stations. The old charts showing Corvani worlds have been deleted and replaced. Future explorers will find nothing but empty systems with no planets. Dr. Amy Walsh, now promoted to Chief Science Officer for the operation, joined them on the bridge. Admiral, we've completed the final phase of historical elimination. Every mention of the Corvani has been removed from all accessible databases in known space. What about the other species? Are they cooperating? Most are. The Altarians, Centaurians, and Vegans have all agreed to purge their records. A few smaller species are still resisting, but they're not significant. Jake turned to his communications officer. Lieutenant Davis, send a message to the resistors. Any species that continues to maintain records of the Corvani will be considered supporters of genocide. They have 72 hours to comply. Yes, sir, Davis replied. Should I mention the consequences of non-compliance? I think they can figure that out for themselves. Within 48 hours, the remaining holdout species had all complied. The threat was clear enough. Humanity had proven they could erase an entire civilization from existence. No one wanted to test whether they would do the same thing again. Back on Earth, President Nathan Cole was preparing his final address about the Corvani situation. The operation had taken 4 years to complete, but it was finally over. Every Corvani was dead. Every world was destroyed. Every record was eliminated. Mr. President, his aide Secretary of State Carol Murphy said, some historians are concerned about the precedent we're setting. Complete erasure of a species from all records. Cole looked at her. Carol, do you remember what the Corvani did to our people? Yes, sir. The experiments, the torture, the planned genocide. Then you understand why this was necessary. We're not just eliminating a threat. We're sending a message to the entire galaxy about what happens when you cross certain lines. What message exactly? Cole walked to the window overlooking the city below. People were going about their normal lives. Children were playing in parks. Families were having dinner together. None of them would ever have to worry about the Corvani again. The message is simple, Cole said. Humanity will tolerate trade, disputes. We'll accept territorial conflicts. We'll even forgive acts of war between military forces. But if you torture our children, if you experiment on our civilians, if you plan genocide against our species, then you forfeit your right to exist. That evening, Cole delivered his address to the world. The speech was broadcast to every human colony and transmitted to every species in the galaxy. My fellow humans, he began, 4 years ago, we discovered that a species called the Corvani had been systematically torturing and murdering our people for 7 decades. They had kidnapped over 300,000 humans for use in barbaric experiments. They were planning to exterminate our entire species. He paused, letting the words sink in. Today, I can report that the Corvani threat has been completely eliminated. Not just their military, not just their government. The Corvani as a species no longer exist anywhere in the universe. The President activated a holographic display showing empty space where Corvani worlds had once been. We have destroyed every Corvani ship, station, and world. We have eliminated every member of their species. We have erased every record of their existence from galactic databases. Their stars have been removed from our maps. Future generations will find no trace that they ever existed. Cole looked directly into the camera. Let this serve as a lesson to any species that might consider humanity as subjects for experimentation. We are not specimens. We are not test subjects. We are the species that will erase you so completely that the universe will forget you ever drew breath among the stars. The reaction from other species was immediate. Some condemned humanity's actions as genocide. Others quietly supported the elimination of a species that had planned to commit genocide itself. But all of them understood the message clearly. Humans were no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were the species that had proven capable of completely erasing their enemies from existence. In the months that followed, human diplomacy became much easier. Trade negotiations went smoothly. Territorial disputes were resolved quickly. Other species were remarkably accommodating when dealing with human concerns. Dr. Peter Wong, now head of the new Department of Species Monitoring, kept watch for any signs that other species might be developing anti-human policies or weapons. Dr. Wong, his assistant Dr. Lisa Harper, reported, "We're seeing interesting changes in behavior across multiple species. The Rigelians have shut down their biological weapons research program. The Andromedans have closed their human studies department at their main university." "Good," Peter replied. "They're learning. Sir, some people are saying we've become the villains of the galaxy. That other species fear us more than they respect us." Peter looked at her seriously. "Lisa, would you rather live in a galaxy where other species fear to harm humans, or a galaxy where they feel free to torture our children for science?" Lisa thought about her own 2 children back home. "I'd rather they fear us." "Exactly. Fear keeps our children safe. Respect didn't save the 300,000 humans that the Corvani murdered." 1 year after the completion of Operation Absolute Zero, Admiral Morrison was conducting a routine patrol of the former Corvani space. His sensors detected nothing but empty void and cosmic radiation. "Admiral," Tony Martinez said, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. New orders." Jake read the orders on his screen. "Interesting. We're being reassigned to explore the Andromeda sector. Apparently there are reports of unusual activity there." "New species to contact?" "Possibly. The science teams think they've detected signs of an advanced civilization." Jake thought about the implications. Humanity was expanding its reach, making contact with new species, establishing trade and diplomatic relationships. All because they no longer had to worry about species like the Corvani planning their destruction. "Set course for Andromeda sector," he ordered. As the final word turned away from the empty space that had once been the Corvani Empire, Jake reflected on what they had accomplished. An entire species had been removed from existence. Not just killed in war, but completely erased from reality itself. Some people called it genocide. Others called it justice. Jake called it necessary. In the ship's records room, Lieutenant Susan Hill was making the final updates to the official galactic charts. The areas of space that had once been labeled as Corvani territory were now marked as unexplored deep space. No known planets or life forms. "Lieutenant," her assistant asked, "what if future explorers ask about these empty systems? Won't they wonder why there are stars with no planets?" Susan looked at him. "What stars?" "According to our current charts, those areas contain nothing but empty space. No stars, no planets, no signs that anything was ever there." The assistant checked his display. She was right. The charts showed only void in those sectors. Even the collapsed stars had been removed from the official records. As far as galactic civilization was concerned, that entire region of space had always been empty. But what if someone has old charts? Pre-war navigation data that shows the original star systems. "All pre-war charts have been recalled and updated," Susan replied. "It's against human law to possess or distribute obsolete navigation data. Any charts showing the existence of inhabited systems in sectors DS1 through DS23 are considered historical forgeries. On distant worlds, the few aliens who remembered trading with the Corvani or meeting them at diplomatic functions began to doubt their own memories. Official records showed no evidence of such contacts. Government databases contained no files about any species called the Corvani. Even personal photographs and documents that might have shown Corvani individuals mysteriously disappeared from private collections. Within a decade, most aliens began to believe they had simply misremembered. Perhaps the species they recalled had been called something else. Perhaps they had confused different alien contacts. Memory was unreliable after all, and official records were much more trustworthy.